Oh yes, well I do agree that self-improvement is it's a very important thing in a lot of for a lot of men and in a lot of lives. There's something you need to be very, very careful of, especially in the beginning of self-improvement, because it can almost ruin your entire journey. It can, honestly. It can completely destroy your entire life if you're not careful of it. And honestly, it nearly destroyed mine before I watched a video on it. And, this is something where it's not something where I can really make you do it because this is something you're going to have to be aware of for the rest of your life. Otherwise, it will slowly start to creep up on you. And you will see that you will start to slide back down the progress levels instead of going up. And this thing, I don't know how to describe it. It's just something where you need to stop yourself almost forever. There's never going to be a point where you're never going to have this thing and it is always going to be stuck with you and you're going to have to make sure that you keep it in check. Otherwise, you could ruin your self-improvement. You could ruin your life entirely. You could ruin your friendships, relationships, job, everything like that. And that thing comes inside right in here, right inside your mind. And that's your ego. Because when your ego gets too big, you will start to do so many things wrong, and you won't even realize they're wrong until it's too late. So, first thing you will do is with self improvement, we're gaining a lot of muscle, we're gaining a lot of mental clarity, we're doing a lot of good habits instead of doing a lot of the bad habits. And that can get to our heads a little bit. It's like that point where we aren't great yet, but we think we're so much better than everyone else that it starts to actually hurt us and other people because, first of all, it can ruin friendships. If you watched my video on narcissism, I talked a lot about how friendships can be ruined by people who get too narcissistic, because nobody wants to be around a narcissistic person. They always want to be around, nice, pleasant people. And when you think you are so much better than everybody else, when in reality, you probably aren't, nobody's going to want to be around you and nobody's going to like you. And as I said in my narcissism video, that is going to lead to a harsh, harsh reality check when you realize that you have no friends, no family. You are unable to get girls because while yes, being attractive, being healthy, being strong, being fit, those things are super important. If you don't have a good personality and you aren't enjoyable to be around and people don't enjoy being around you, you're never going to get relationships. And like I said in my Truth About Attraction video, you should go watch that one. It's very good and it's also a pretty nice reality check for a lot of guys on self-improvement. Attraction only gets your foot in the door, but if your ego is so inflated that you can't get enough of yourself, the only way the only thing that's going to happen is your foot's going to get broken and the door's going to get slammed shut again. The only way you get through is with confidence and a good personality, being humble but also knowing that you have those abilities. So it's a big one, relationships. The other one was something I mentioned in my complacency video, and it is simply that you will start to think you're too good for things. This kind of happened to me a while back. I started to think that I was too good to not be playing like video games and watching meaningless content. And for months, I got stuck playing video games, watching YouTube, and it was awful. My confidence dropped to an all-time low on self-improvement. Obviously, it was still higher than when I was a total like incel, but it dropped to an all-time low from this year or so, and I started to get more headaches. I started to just feel worse overall because I wasn't focusing as much. I couldn't focus as much. I wasn't eating healthily. I wasn't spending my time on things that mattered. And, it really hurt. And all of this came because my ego got too big, and my ego said, oh, yeah, you can play video games. You can watch TV. You can do all these things. It doesn't matter. As long as you're still doing that good habit sometimes. And honestly, I agree with that. If you want to play video games with your brothers or something, and you got nothing else to do, like it's raining outside, it's super cold, you finished all your work for the day, you've already worked out, you've done everything you can, and you just want to spend some time, go ahead. But mine was, I started to play video games on my own. I started playing for like 2 hours a day, and I started going back to that normal incel kind of lifestyle, and it really, really hurt me. So that's another huge thing about the ego. The ego will make you do these things. And now, here's how you keep your ego in check. So one of the best things I found to keep your ego in check is to bring people in that are better than you. And it's not something where you're intentionally trying to look for how people are better than you and how you're worse than everybody else. But, I did this with my boss. I talk about him a lot. He got me into meditation and all these like mental health habits. So obviously he's better than me at them. We can still talk about them, but it's something where I understand I'm not like a Buddhist monk. I can't meditate for hours on end. I realize that I'm not the best meditator, but I still do it. And it gives me that sense of humbleness knowing that there are people better than me, but that I'm not the worst either. And it's the same thing with fitness. My bosses, like, they're very close friends of my boss, and they're friends of mine too. They're twins in college, and they started their like fitness journey way before I did, and they look super good. Like, not in a not in a gay way or anything, but I saw them back when I was 7 or 8, and they were pudgier. And now I see them and they look very good. They have girlfriends now and everything like that. And, that shows me that I can still be better in fitness. I can still, I'm not the best yet. I'm not the best looking guy. I can still do things to be better. And, it shows me there. And then in school, I have this really smart friend who gets near hundreds in every class. And he shows me that I can be smarter. It's the same thing. But each of these people are someone that I can talk to about this specific thing, and I can relate to, I can enjoy being around, but also I can realize that there are going to be people better than me. It forces you to realize that people are so there are always going to be people better than you, and you cannot act like you're the best person when you aren't. And these little things that show me, oh yeah, I'm not the best, they help me keep me in check because I can still see that there's still so much work to be put in, and it's time to put in the work. Now, another way of getting rid of ego is honestly to release it, because a lot of people get this pent up ego that, oh yeah, I'm so much better than everybody else. And, I can do this, I can do that. One of the greatest ways I found to keep my ego in check is to tell people about my successes and, get the compliments. Like, very recently, I hit a new bench max of 185 pounds. And, that was very impressive for me. It made me feel super happy that I got that. And I told my mom, and she was like, oh, that's really good. That's a lot of weight. Good job. And that just little compliment made me realize it was good. It's something where I know it's not the strongest. I know there are people stronger than me who do 225, who can do 225 for like 20, 30 reps. There are people who can do like 405 pounds on the bench press. And, that's good, but my mom saying good job to me made me feel really good, and it doesn't blow up my ego that my mom likes me, that my mom thinks what I'm doing is impressive. So having someone like that can give you those small little affirmations without blowing up your ego every time you see them, it's a very nice thing to do. But they can also be the ones that keep you in check and go, hey, you need to chill out a little bit, all right? So having someone there that's very nice but also critical on in a sense is a very important thing if you want to keep your ego in check, especially with all this, modern media and the ability to just share it out to everybody like I'm doing right now. And also, it helps keep your ego level because we don't want our egos to be too high or too low. Because, I talked about with social media how seeing all these people better than you can really hurt your feelings. But if you have someone right there with you who's always complimenting you, who's always telling you good job, who's always telling you that you're very, very, that you're good, then, it keeps you, and it brings your ego up, but not so up that you reach like a super extreme level of ego that nobody likes. It keeps you in that middle ground where, you know your abilities, but you know that there are always going to be people better than you, and that your abilities aren't the best they can be yet. So, there you go. That's my TED Talk on ego, and I hope you guys will do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Goodbye.